Lifestyles, what's up? Kino Barber here, back with another video. Today's video is going to be an unboxing and review of a new product that I received from BlurGuard. And the product that I received is called the Metal Blur, which is going to be their metal blade, their newest product that they are dropping. And of course, guys, I'm going to give you guys my honest feedback, and I'm going to let you know whether we're going to crown or trash this new Metal Blur from BlurGuard. So before we hop into this review, you already know what to do, guys. Make sure you smash that subscribe button. Give the video a thumbs up if you like the content, and also follow me on my Instagram page at Kingmelifestyles. So without further ado, let's get to that intro. Welcome back to the channel. So we're talking about the new Metal Blur from BlurGuard, which is going to be this bad boy right here, guys. Had this in the shop for a few weeks, got a chance to use this, and of course, I'm going to give you guys my honest feedback on this. So what we're going to do is we're going to head over to my unboxing station and unpackage this so you guys can get a closer look at the new metal blade. So let's get right to it. All right, guys, so here is the package from BlurGuard. Let's get this open. So the metal blade is going to come in this plastic seal. On the very top here is where you're going to see the blur. Let's get this open. So before I take out the blade, you get a sticker inside the packaging. Here's going to be the new Blur Metal from BlurGuard. This is their metal guard from their iconic plastic BlurGuard. Basically the same thing, but it's going to be a metal version. So taking a look at this blade here, doesn't have a whole lot of weight to it, but it is going to be a little bit heavier than your normal blade. Also, this blade is going to be thick as well. Now this blade can go from a 0 to a 1.5 if you zero gap it, or if you use a stretch bracket, you can go from a 1/2 to a 2. This metal blade can fit any wall system as far as the holes here. You can fit any of the wall clippers, or you can also fit the Gamma or Stylecraft as well. So anything that's similar to that wall style of bracket. And then on the back here, these teeth on here are pretty sharp. So this was their first signature classic version. If you guys now have seen that review, go make sure you check that out. So they originally came out with this first, which is going to be their green BlurGuard, and now this is going to be their newest invention, which is going to be their metal blur. This metal blade is basically, it's going to be similar to your Andis fat blade. Now the Andis fat blade is discontinued, so you can't even find these anywhere. So what BlurGuard ended up doing is getting really smart, and this is something that I would have even done, was create a metal blade. I really love this fat blade from Andis. I use this on probably 99% of all my cuts. And so when I heard that Blur was coming out with their own version of it, I would say that I was the first in line to want this blade. And just to give you a comparison of both blades, as far as the thickness on the blade, I would say the Andis is just a smidge thicker than the Blur metal blade, just by a little bit, nothing crazy. As far as the width of it, I would say that even the Andis fat blade is just a little bit longer than the Blur blade, but not by much. Those are just one of the things that I noticed right away looking at both blades here. And then the holes are going to be different. The holes that you have to use for this Andis fat blade, you have to actually use the Andis screws for this, versus having the Blur. You don't need the Andis screws. You can actually use any of the wall or Stylecraft Gamma products, and you're able to, and you can also even use this on the JRLs as well. But other than that, they feel pretty much the same in weight. When you compare it to the teeth, it looks like the teeth on the Andis might have just a few extra more teeth versus the metal BlurGuard. And another thing that I've noticed too, the curvage on both blades, the Andis Fat Master, it seems like it curves in a little bit more than the metal BlurGuard. It seems like it's a little bit more round versus this is just like a triangle. And as you can see, both of them, you see how smooth this round is versus this. I mean, they're both smooth, but it just seems like this goes a little bit higher up. The way the BlurGuard is, it seems like a little bit more smoother round versus the Andis, both blades here, and you can see a little bit of difference there. So that's going to be all the little details I see as far as the difference between the Andis fat blade versus the metal BlurGuard. So here is the scale, guys. We are going to weigh out this blade. So this is going to come at 1.4 versus the Andis fat blade. This is gonna come at 1.7. So here I have the wall magic clip. This is gonna be one of their newest wall clippers. I like this clipper because the motor on here seems to be a little bit more strong on this clipper. And so what I did was took off one of these stretch brackets that you'll get from any of the Gammas or wall products right here. And I installed it on this clipper here because I want to be able to get that full range from a 1/2 to a 2. And so what we're going to do is we're going to install the new metal blur on this clipper. So the way that I like to do it with the stretch bracket, you don't want to zero gap it like you would any other blade. You actually want to push it all the way up as far as you can and then tighten up the screws. Reason why, you want that longer reach. And so that's how you're able to get from the 1/2 to the 2 by making sure that you scoot the blade up all the way up as far as it can go with the stretch bracket. That is how you're able to get that. If you don't have a stretch bracket, which is fine, you're just gonna go from a 1/2 to a 1.5. I like to go from the 1/2 to the 2. So just remember, it's very important to make sure you scoot that blade all the way up. Do not zero gap it. So I have the blade installed here. Let's do the sound check. So pricing on the new metal blur from BlurGuard is gonna cost you $50 for this new metal blade. So if you guys are interested, I will leave that link in the description below on where you can pick up one of these. But as of right now, it is still pre-order. So if you are interested in it, go pre-order yours now. Now, as far as the ergonomics and design of the new metal blur blade from BlurGuard, it is an inspiration from the Andis Fat Master blade. The industry been hollering about getting another fat blade from Andis, but they have not came out with one. So the Blur company ended up getting smart, and thankfully they ended up coming out with their own version of the blade. Now this metal blur blade materials are made from hardened CM, anti-rust, stainless steel. And also the blade is gonna be a taper style blade as well. That's why you see the little ridges on the metal blur blade. When it comes to the performance on the new metal blur blade from BlurGuard, when it comes to cutting bulk, that was one thing that I was really worried about from my experience using the Andis Fat Master blade. That was the one thing that I did not like about the Andis Fat Master blade, and that could be the reason why they discontinued it, but it did pull and snag on your client's hair depending on how thick it is. So that Andis Fat Master blade is not designed to cut down bulk. It does cut, and having the right clipper like the Rebel, because I use my Andis Fat Master blade on my Rebel clipper because of how powerful that motor is. It kind of eliminates that a little bit, so I don't get as much pulling or snagging when I'm using that clipper because that motor is really strong. Now, me using the metal blur blade, when I went down to cut down bulk, it didn't snag or pull, which I am happy about because it doesn't do that. And it could be because of the metals and material that they use on this blade, but it actually cuts through hair pretty good. I wouldn't say that the metal blur blade is a bulk cutting blade, but it can cut through bulk. So I wouldn't test it out on someone that has a lot of hair and you're trying to mow through that hair. I wouldn't recommend that. I will just actually use whatever you use to cut down bulk. So you're basically switching from two clippers. A clipper, your traditional clipper that goes from the 0 to the 1/2 or 0 to the 1. And then you use the Blur metal blade, which goes from that 1/2 to the 1.5 or the 1/2 to the 2. So when it comes to fading with the new metal blur blade, it fades very well, guys. You're able to cut down on time, and you know, time is money in the shop. The more hairs you can get in, the more money you make. So I didn't have any problems when it comes to fading. So another thing I noticed with this blade is that it cuts a tiny bit shorter than the Andis Fat Master blade, just by a little bit, nothing too crazy, or you're like, oh, I won't like the blade. If you like the Andis Fat Master blade, you're gonna like the Blur metal blade, because again, it is the same thing, but it just cuts a tiny bit shorter, so you just gotta keep that in mind. So the big question today, guys, are we going to crown or trash this new metal blur blade from BlurGuard? And today, guys, we are going to crown this blade with a rating score of 10. So the reason why I'm crowning this metal blur blade from BlurGuard is because this thing just works. It doesn't snag or pull on your client's hair. It does blend very well. And the most important thing, you won't need all those guards, so you have better control of your fades. And at that price range of only $50, it's a must-have for me, guys. So that's gonna be a wrap on today's video. Hope you enjoyed the content. If you did, please give the video a thumbs up. Also, get in that comment section and let me know what you guys think about this new metal blur blade from BlurGuard. Is it something that you're gonna grab or you're gonna pass on it? Let me know. I want to hear your thoughts in that comment section. Until then, I will see you on the next video.